Loretta Shaw, Loretta Shaw.
Ms. Shaw, how do you know Joseph and Jennifer Rosenbaum?
I met Jennifer at a wedding,
And at whose wedding was that?
Lauren's.
And Lauren is new to Jennifer.
Jennifer and Lauren are sisters.
And how long have you known Jennifer?
Well, I met her in May of 15.
And did you know her before she became a foster mother?
Yes,
And did you ever meet the foster children that she...
one time.
Tell me about that time.
I went into a shower, and they were at the shower, and Laila came running and climbed up in my lap. And she sat with me most of the time during the shower. She would get up and go back to Jennifer and get her phone. And she would come back and climb in my lap, and she'd put it up to her ear and say, "Daddy, I love you." And she did that numerous times, just going back and forth.
Okay.
Just a bubbly, happy little girl.
Do you remember the date that was?
It was, I'm not sure, sometime in August, I
In
believe.
August of 2015?
Yes.
And how did they interact with Jennifer? How did the...
Oh, they was very loving on her.
Okay. And tell me, did you see any marks and bruises on these children?
No, and the youngest one sat in my lap most of the time, and if she'd have had any, I'm sure I would have seen them.
And did you see anything that would alarm you at all?
No, just a happy little girl.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ross?
Good morning, Ms. Shaw.
Good
I
morning.
just had one question for you. After that August date, did you ever see the little girls again?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You can step down. Please
Okay.
step on the back.
Name and spell it, please.
My name is Lauren Banks, LAURENBANKS.
Ms. Banks, how do you know Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Jennifer and I met in 2010 off of Facebook. She's, from what I learned, my biological sister.
And were you raised together?
No, ma'am, we were not raised together. I was adopted at 10 days old prior to Jennifer even being born, and we never knew each other until the Facebook interaction in 2010.
And when is the first time that you met Jennifer?
It was Jennifer's birthday in 2010. She had turned 22. I don't remember the name of the place that we met, but her and my now husband and one of his friends, we met together with a group of her friends. That way it wasn't awkward when we first met, since we had never met each other before and we were related.
Did there come a time where you became aware that Jennifer was going to foster children?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I believe it was Father's Day. She had came over to my house. I was at the time on bed rest, and she let me know then that she was interested in fostering children. It's something that she was passionate about since she was a foster child herself.
And did she show you any photos? Did she share any pictures with you?
She did.
And were you able, that summer, it's the summer of 2015, is that?
It was.
And that summer, were you able to go out and get about, go places with her?
I was not. I was hospitalized June 6th, and I was in the hospital for a little over 2 weeks. Again, I was pregnant, and I had complications during my pregnancy, and I was 6 months pregnant. And then I was on bed rest after I was released from the hospital.
When was the first time you met Millie Place and Laila Daniel?
I met them at my baby shower. It was the end of August 2015. Jennifer brought them with her again to my baby shower.
And was there anything noteworthy about how they got there? Did they get there?
Jennifer drove in her car by herself. I happened to be outside greeting guests. My host of the baby shower was running late, so my baby shower started about 45 minutes late, so I was outside trying to greet people that were coming in, and Jennifer came, and the girls were asleep in the back seat.
Okay, and what happened, how did they get into the house?
Jennifer woke them up, and they walked into the house.
And did she scold them at all for sleeping in the car?
No, ma'am, she did not.
Was there any distress or anger about them being asleep?
No, ma'am.
How were they at the party?
They were regular little kids. They were interacting with my family and my husband's family, and then they would go back and sit in Jennifer's lap. They played on Jennifer's cell phone, and they just acted like regular kids.
Tell me a little bit about when the next time it is that you saw the girls.
The next time I saw, or it was right after, I believe it was Millie's birthday party. It was a good bit of time between my baby shower and Millie's birthday. Again, I was really pregnant and sick, but I stopped by to give her a birthday present. I missed her birthday because I believe it was outside, and I wasn't supposed to be doing any strenuous activity outside. No.
Did you come and see Millie after her birthday?
I did.
And were you where was this that you came to?
I came to Jennifer's house.
And what did you find at Jennifer's house? How were the girls there?
They were fine. I mean, I was only there for about 20 minutes. It was to drop off the birthday present and leave, so it wasn't an extenuous amount of time. But the girls were acting like my two girls.
Were they running around? Were they using their legs and arms?
They were.
And did they seem comfortable in the house or not?
They seemed very comfortable.
And when is the final time that you had a chance to see these girls?
The last time I saw them was the day before Jennifer's birthday.
And tell me what that was for.
Jennifer and I, since we met on her birthday, we get together around her birthday every single year. That year, Jennifer, I believe, had a final the next day, so we weren't able to meet on her actual birthday. And with me having a brand new baby, we didn't want to go out, so I came to her house. Jennifer was cooking dinner. The one thing that does stand out is that Millie and Laila were outside playing while we were in the kitchen area. There's a big window and a foyer, a door that goes out to the backyard, and Millie and Laila were playing outside. And Jennifer and I happened to look up, and Laila and Millie were on a ladder that was going up a tree. And I think when and we kind of left it at that.
Did you do anything about? Was it a cut?
No, ma'am. It was just red at the time.
What did they do? Did she go lay down, or what did girls do after they came into the house after falling from the ladder?
After they got over the initial kind of shock or scare, they just continued to play like regular.
And tell me about Laila. Was she injured in any way?
I didn't see anything on Laila that, it was.
How high was it for Laila?
Laila was probably about the third step up, and I think Millie was about the fourth or fifth step up.
And did Laila cushion Millie's fall at all? Did Millie fall on top of her?
No. She kind of, when Millie slid down, she slid to where she was able to stand up, and Laila fell on her bottom.
find out about Laila's passing?
I just remember getting a phone call from one of the family members saying that something had happened. I really don't remember the exact details of it. I had extremely bad postpartum depression to the point where I did not leave my bed for a long time or extended periods of time. So that whole time.
During the time that you saw the girls, did you ever see, apart from this time with the ladder, did you ever see bruises on them that were out of the ordinary for?
Out of the ordinary, no.
Did you ever see any pattern bruises? And by that I mean bruises from an electric cord, from a belt, something that left a pattern on the skin.
Bleeding to, like this is, that would be expert. I don't believe this witness would testify to that, but that would be an expert witness.
Sustained after bleeding.
Did you see any patterned injuries on the child?
No, ma'am.
Did you see any injuries that looked like belt buckles?
No, ma'am.
Did you see any injuries that looked like belt strap or electric cord?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have the girls to yourself?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have them in the house where Jennifer was not right on top of them?
No, ma'am.
So Jennifer was always there?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Jennifer or Joseph spank or hit these children?
No, ma'am.
Did Jennifer and Joseph ever consult with you about illnesses with the girls?
No.
Did you ever see the girls with raccoon eyes, with black eyes all around, blackness all around?
No, ma'am.
I want to show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit 141 and 142, and see if you can identify those pictures.
Yes, ma'am.
And what are they?
They're the ladder that Millie and Layla were playing on.
At this time, I would tender Exhibit 142, 141, and 142 in the record and ask for function.
Any objection?
No.
They're admitted to be published.
Is that the ladder you saw Layla and Millie fall off of?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long has that ladder been up there?
At least for 4 years. It was up in 2017. I had my baby shower, my second baby shower at Jennifer's house, and my oldest daughter was playing on it. So it's
Still up?
yes, ma'am.
Let me show you what's been marked at 141 and ask you if this is the ladder that they fell off of.
Yes, ma'am.
I have no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams. Andrews?
Good afternoon, Ms. Thomas.
Good afternoon.
Representative Andrews. I have a few questions for you. You indicated you first saw the girls in August of 2015,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's when they came to your home.
No, ma'am. It was actually my mother-in-law's home.
It wasn't Jennifer's.
No, ma'am.
And after you left your mother-in-law's home, did you go back to the Rosenbaum home?
No, ma'am. I went to my home.
So you don't know what happened at Jennifer's home after they returned to her home?
No, ma'am. That's fair to say.
And well, on August 25th of 2015, did you undress the girls?
No, ma'am.
So you only saw you didn't see their buttocks or their backs or anything like that?
Not on the 25th, no ma'am.
That was August 25th, you said?
The 23rd was the baby shower. They were wearing sundresses, I believe.
But you didn't see the buttocks or anything like that?
No ma'am.
And you then indicated that you saw them next after Millie's birthday. How long after Millie's birthday?
It was the day after Millie's birthday.
So October 18th?
If that's the day after Millie's birthday, I'm not sure of the exact date.
Well, let me clarify. Are you saying the day after Millie's birthday party or after?
Her birthday party, yes ma'am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about the same date. So you saw her the day after Millie's birthday party?
Yes ma'am.
Okay. And that was at Jennifer's house?
Yes ma'am.
And where was Layla when you got there?
When I first got there, I believe she was like in their den area. They have a step down area. And I believe she was right there and Millie had came to the door.
And was Layla wearing clothes appropriate for the weather?
Yes ma'am.
And was Millie wearing clothes appropriate for the weather?
Yes ma'am.
Did you take off their clothes on that day?
No ma'am.
So you didn't see their buttocks?
Well, Layla was just wearing a diaper, but I didn't see underneath her diaper that day. No ma'am.
And Millie, you didn't see her buttocks, her
No ma'am.
back, anything like that? And you said you were there about 20 minutes?
Yes ma'am.
And the next time you saw the girls was November 16 of 2015?
Yes ma'am.
And that was at the Rosenbaum home?
Yes ma'am.
And you said that Millie fell off the ladder and had some redness to her hip.
Yes ma'am.
What hip was that?
I believe she was holding the ladder with her right hand, so I believe it was her left side, but I'm not sure on that.
So you believe it was her left hip? And then describe for me what exactly.
No, I apologize. She was holding the ladder with her right hand, so it would have been her right hip as well.
So describe for me what you saw. So is it
Like if you're climbing up a ladder and you're holding the ladder with one hand and looking down, and you fall and you like slide with the ladder down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but just,
Like
I want to know what hip the injury was on.
it would have been the right hip, the hand that she was, or the side that she was holding on the ladder with.
And tell me about the injury that you saw.
At the time, it was just like red, and it was almost like I was looking at like not like when a bruise is formed, but you can tell it's red and it's going to form a bruise. If that makes sense.
Where was it exactly?
It was from about maybe an inch below her thigh, just to right at above her butt cheek, but on her hip.
You might need to stand up so we can see what you're talking about.
Sorry, I just had surgery, so I'm in a lot of pain.
I'm sorry.
It was like from here to here.
Okay, and what did it look like?
It was red, and it definitely looked like it was going to form a bruise.
Was there any injury to her buttocks?
No,
Was there any injury to her arm that happened that day?
not that day, but she did have a bruise on her arm that day.
She didn't.
Yes, ma'am.
And what arm was that? Do you remember which arm?
I don't.
So the ladder was made of wood?
No, ma'am. It's a metal ladder.
Metal, but a hard substance, for lack of a better word.
Yes, ma'am.
So it wouldn't have wrapped around, the injury didn't wrap around Millie's body, did it? Like it wasn't on different planes of the body.
I don't understand. Like,
The injury was on the hip, there was nothing on the buttocks or the back.
no, not the back. No, ma'am.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 80. Is this what you saw on Millie on November 16th?
It didn't look like that. No, ma'am.
And you said Millie fell from the 4th step,
It was about the 4th or 5th step up. Yes, ma'am.
and there was no reason on that day to take her to the hospital.
No, ma'am.
And then you said Layla fell on her bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
And Layla had a diaper on,
Yes, ma'am.
so she had a little cushion there. You can assume so.
Yes, ma'am.
And other than that, Layla didn't have any other injuries to her
No, ma'am.
from the ladder?
No, ma'am.
So all the questions have been.
Nawara, Donellnawara.
Were you formerly Detective Witt?
Yes,
Detective Nawara, did you have occasion to work on the Millie Place and Laila Daniel case?
yes.
And what was one of the first duties you had with regards to that case?
The
What
morning,
did you do?
the morning after the death of Layla, I always came into work early, and the secretary came to me and said that there's some family members that are at the precinct, and they need someone to talk to in reference to their child passing away the night before.
Did you talk to Miss Tessa Clendenning?
I did.
And what did Miss Tessa Clendenning tell you about how many daughters she had?
I believe at the time,
What did she tell you?
Overall,
What did she tell you about how many daughters she had?
I believe 3.
Did you ask her anything about why her children? Did you ask her anything about her children?
Yes, to tell me their ages, their birth dates and such.
And what did she tell you about where the children were?
They were in DFACS care.
Did you ask her anything about defects care?
I don't recall.
Would it help you to take a look at your report?
Yes.
See if this refreshes your recollection.
She stated that she had a 2-month-old daughter that is in Clayton County DFACS care. And then I asked her why the children were in DFACS care. And she advised that she tested positive for meth.
Did she say anything else?
She advised that she would do anything to get meth.
Thank you. Did you, was one of your other duties to accompany Detective Thompson to the Lambert home?
Yes.
And did you, what did you do when you got to the Lambert home?
Introduced myself, and then we sat down at the family dining room table.
Who was at the table?
I believe it was me, Detective Thompson, Miss Lambert, and her sister.
Her sister.
Yes.
And what did Ms. Lambert have to tell you about, with regards to Millie Place? This child here said,
it seems like it's a couple years. Sustain the objection.
did you talk to Millie at all?
Yes, very briefly.
Was she there?
Yes.
Did you take any report about, what was the purpose for you being there?
To speak to Miss Lambert,
About what?
the reason why they took the child from her originally and gave the children to the Rosenbaums.
Let me ask you this. Do you recall Ms. Lambert saying anything to you about what Millie had to say after she came back from the Rosenbaum?
I do not recall.
Do you recall anything about Ms. Lambert or her daughter telling you anything about what Millie had to say?
Kaya, the daughter, did.
Okay. And what did Kaya tell you?
Objection on hearsay.
If only a group. What did Kaya tell you about what Millie said as to how she got her bruises?
I don't believe the exact, I can't remember the exact wording, but that she was told that if somebody asked her, she fell down.
What else did she tell you about what caused the injury?
A bear scratched her,
A bear scratched her?
I believe.
That's what Kaya told you Millie said?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Wood, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wall.
Mrs. Nawara, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Ron.
Good morning.
Were you the lead detective on this case?
No.
You just happened to be in the office that morning when the family came in,
Yes.
and you had an opportunity to talk to Tessa
Yes.
in regards to the death of her daughter, Laila.
Yes.
And that led you to go to Ms. Lambert's home to talk to her and her daughter.
Yes.
And you ended up going there because Ms. Lambert had, I guess, called the police and told them that Millie was making disclosures while she was in their home.
Yes.
And that they were concerned and she would like the police to hear them from Millie.
Yes.
And when you went out, did you go out alone?
With Detective Thompson, which is the lead detective.
And while you were there, you spoke with Millie.
Yes.
Do you recall what Millie told you, if anything, about what happened to her in Rosenbaum's home?
I do not remember.
And then you spoke to Kaya.
Yes.
And Kaya explained to, let me ask you, before getting there, were you made aware that Kaya was the person that Millie had been making disclosures to?
Yes.
And how many cases of child abuse did you work as a detective?
At least 25 to 30.
And is it unusual for children to disclose
what we call delayed disclosure, have delayed disclosure, where they don't tell initially and then start to make disclosures?
Correct.
That's not unusual, is it?
No, not at all.
And that usually occurs once they get into a safe environment.
Yes.
And at this point, Millie was back with the previous foster parents before going to the Rosenbaums.
Yes.
And that's when she started to make these disclosures.
Correct.
And Kaya indicated to you that Millie told her that some of her bruises came from a bear scratching her.
Yes.
Did she also report that Millie indicated that she had been told to lie
Yes.
about how she received these injuries?
Yes.
And in regards to Tessa, let me ask you, did Kaya tell you who Millie indicated told her to lie about her injuries?
I do not recall that.
Okay, so you don't recall if she said it was the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
No, I don't remember.
And then in regards to Tessa Clendenning Daniel, you spoke to her,
Yes.
and she admitted that she had a meth problem.
Yes.
Didn't hide behind that at all.
No.
And you asked her why her kids were taken by DFACS.
Yes.
At any point, did she tell you it's because she was physically abusing her children?
No.
Did she ever tell you because I poured boiling water on my 1-year-old daughter and made her eat feces?
No.
She said because she had a drug problem, that's
She
why
had
her
a drug
kids were
problem.
taken.
Yes.
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. And you can step.
Spell it for the jury.
Yes, ma'am. Donna Wieczorek, and that's Donna, D-O-N-N-A, Wieczorek, W-I-E-C-Z-O-R-E-K.
Dr. Wieczorek, how do you make your living?
First of all, it's not doctor. So I'm a licensed professional counselor.
Okay. Ms. Wieczorek, how do you make your living?
I'm a part-time therapist for Health Connect America.
And what is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have a master's degree in community counseling.
And what kind of patients do you normally see? Is it run the gamut, or are you specialized into?
At the beginning, it was families, parents, maybe that had substance abuse issues, but most recently, over the last year, it's been children only.
Children only. And were you asked to see Millie Place?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you asked to see Millie Place for?
In January of 2018, I was asked to provide counseling services for Millie for adjusting to her new foster home. I think she had just been there about 4 weeks. And then shortly after that, before I had engaged with the family, I was asked to delay that because there was going to be a court hearing or trial. So I think it was July 2nd of 2018 before I met Millie for the first time.
Okay. And was one of the reasons that you were given for seeing Millie is to prepare her for court?
No, ma'am.
Okay. It was just to give her counseling.
Yes, ma'am.
And from which adult did you get the history about Millie from?
So because Millie had just been with Miss Harrell, at that time, I think 7 months, I reached out to maternal great-grandmother, Mrs. Banks. I know where's Nana Banks. And I talked to her about, the developmental milestones Millie had met when she was, growing up and she was an infant and toddler, family health history, and what she knew about Millie moving around. I think Millie had been in, if I recall, maybe 7 or 8 different placements by the time I started seeing her.
How many sessions did you have over what period of time?
So from July 2nd of 2018 to the last session, and I'm still seeing Millie, but we just, we put it off during this. It's a lot on the family. From July 2nd of 2018 to July 3rd of 2019, I met with either Millie and her new mother, or Millie's new mother, and I met in the 44 sessions total.
And when you say new mother, what's the name of the new mother?
The adoptive mother, Amanda Harrell.
Now, did you encounter any problems? Did you and Miss Harrell encounter any problems with Millie with regards to her to what she said? Was lying a problem?
That was one of the issues, defiance, not doing what you're told, maybe being told to do something, clean up your room, and then saying that you had. A lot of children do that. Mm-hmm. So I think out of the 44 sessions, 3 of the sessions were directly related to maybe a lie that Millie had been caught in.
And was one of your goals to significantly reduce lying or reduce it altogether?
Yes, ma'am. All parents want to do that with their children, so yes, that was definitely one.
And was Millie getting in trouble in school for lying?
She did on, I know of 2 occasions. And I can refer to my notes if you need me to. Or maybe you can.
As you feel.
Okay.
You need. There came a day where Amanda Harrell followed you out of the house. You came to the house, correct?
Yes.
You don't have the children come to you, you go to the children.
Yes, ma'am.
And her adoptive mother, Amanda Harrell, followed you out of the house one day, is that correct?
Well, we typically have we typically process the session normally afterwards, yes.
Did she have any concern about Millie's memories?
I think one particular incident I remember Millie trying to do a memory box, So I was talking to Millie about, these are the things you need to collect for your memory box, things to put in, to remember her sister. And Millie had brought out several photo albums, and she was going through it, talking about various biological family members. And I think Amanda was just a little concerned about her not fantasies, but she embellished the past. She said, she goes, I'm not sure all that's true. So, and I told her that, that was Millie's way of coping and healing, was to remember things positively.
And, but Miss Harrell told you she was concerned that some of the memories weren't true.
She was concerned that maybe some of the memories were not memories, but maybe things that she may have heard.
Let me show you, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Your record and see if this refreshes your recollection.
I'm going to object. I don't believe the witness has stated she doesn't remember.
She said she thought that it was, and are you sure that what that was her saying that she was concerned merely about the memories and not about whether they were true or not?
So in that particular instance, she was naming off different biological family members and talking in detail about them, and she's like, how could she, it was very vivid.
It was very vivid, and Miss Harrell was concerned that wasn't true, that she didn't have those memories.
She was,
If I can ask you, first
yes,
of all,
ma'am.
to answer yes
Yes,
or
ma'am.
no, and then you can explain.
Yes, ma'am.
She has her own direct.
And I think,
Leading questions would be appropriate.
Well, it's a truthfully question, not appropriate, but at the same time, let's just start at the top over.
Yes.
Stop now. Okay, so when she asks a question, let her get up the entire question. And then, of course, I've asked counsel to allow the full response. And we'll go from there. And of course, we will have full.
in your note, that you made notes in this as you went along, correct?
Which date?
Well, did you make notes as you went along?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so for every session, you had a note.
Yes, ma'am.
And on 12/5/2018, did you make a note that Miss Harrell had followed the therapist out and had some concerns about memories Millie had? Millie described that she wasn't sure were true.
Yes, ma'am.
So you did not know whether what Millie said was true or not.
No, ma'am.
And in one of your notes, you also stated that she has a tendency to make up her own versions of past experiences.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a concern as well.
Yes and no.
What was the effect of her exposure to her mother and great-grandmother? What effect did that have on Millie?
So I do not believe that Millie was having any visits with her biological mother. I believe that she may have been going to see her maternal great-grandmother either once or twice per month. And I think the concern there was Millie, maybe her behavior when she came home, because she was the only child with her grandmother, and then she came home and had to kind of reconnect into the larger family. And, she had her undivided attention. There were also some concerns about watching YouTube videos all day. I think I might have made that comment.
Okay. And when you say YouTube videos, you mean videos, whatever she found on YouTube?
Child appropriate, yes.
You made a note on February 6, 2019, did you not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I believe.
I'll let you get water.
Okay, thanks. May I refer to my notes?
Certainly.
Okay. And you said February 16th, correct?
February 6th.
6th? Okay. So I have two notes from February 6th.
Do you recall probing Millie to decipher real memories from those that she was hearing because of conversations she might have heard?
Oh, let's see here. Let me see. So the situation, yes, I do.
So you yourself were trying to determine whether she had heard something or whether she knew it herself?
Yes, because, can I explain?
Sure.
Because in this particular incident, it seemed highly unlikely that she would have known the details.
Now, in one instance, did Millie describe to you a nightmare when in fact she later admitted that she had heard others describe the incident of when her sister had died?
I do not recall that. If you can point to a specific note, that would be helpful.
On February 6th again, do you recall that she talked to you about a nightmare about her sister dying?
Do you know if this is the individual psychotherapy or the family counseling?
At the foster home, it's the individual, it's the client.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, that's true.
What is true?
Yes, she did say she had nightmares. And, well, I can read it. The client reported that she had nightmares and was describing what she had seen in her nightmares, but later admitted, and this is back to the conversation she had at school, later admitted that she had heard others describe the incident of when her sister died in foster care.
So she did not know, those were not nightmares she had. She, in fact, was reporting what she had heard others say.
Yes, one comment in particular.
You've also noted that Millie may only remember some of the events due to discussions that were had in her presence.
Objection leading.
Did you say in your note that Millie may remember?
Your Honor, still leading. She's reading directly from the document.
I'm reading from my notes.
Is there some reason that you're not asking her what happened on a particular date during the counseling?
No, there isn't. I can ask her what happened, but what happened on April 10th, 2019. What did you say in your progress narrative?
Repeat the date, please.
April 10th, 2019.
Yes, ma'am. Millie may only remember some of the events due to discussions. Now, this is my belief, not really anything she said. Millie may only remember some of the events due to discussions that were had in her presence before she moved to her adoptive home. Millie's behavior issues have reduced significantly, and she has developed a close and trusting relationship with her adoptive mother. And that's common with children, with a history of instability and neglect. They're moved quite a bit. She was moved quite a bit, so some of her memories, especially because she was so young.
On May 31st, 2019, did Miss Amanda Harrell communicate to you any concern about Millie?
Let me see. And you said May 22nd?
May 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Harrell stressed the need for Millie to continue to receive therapy services until the conclusion of the trial. Ms. Harrell answered all questions provided. Some of that. Let me move on to something more relevant. Ms. Harrell stated that Millie's lying has decreased, and it seems that instead she likes to create her own stories, fantasies. She seems to understand that this was a way that Millie protects herself in some ways due to her past trauma. So again, more positive stories. And I told Ms. Harrell that that's normal. That's her way of coping, and it's her way of healing.
Did you say positive stories or in your notes, or did you say stories/fantasies?
I said stories/fantasies.
Was there any concern, you mentioned earlier about Millie's behavior changing after she came back from her great-grandmother's? Can you explain that a little further?
Well, that's common in children. Common in children that may be in a divorced couple situation where they spend time with their non-custodial parent. But she would come home and maybe have a hard time settling down or following the rules, because the rules were different in Miss Harrell's home than they were in Miss Banks.
Did Miss Banks tell her she didn't have to mind?
Objection.
It's impeachment.
This is a,
Right.
you need to ask leading questions.
Did Miss Banks make any comment, did Miss Harrell make any comment to you? Let me start that. Did Miss Banks tell Millie that she did not have to mind?
Not
Is
that
that
I'm-
one of the problems? I'll move on. Were you aware that all of the foster families that Millie had been with had complained of Miss Banks telling Millie she didn't have to mind?
No, ma'am.
Now, you tried to get Millie to, did you try to get Millie to talk about the death of her sister?
So after Millie's, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
And go ahead and explain.
So that originally was not my role with Millie. My role was to help Millie move forward, because in a trauma situation, it's usually addressed early on. And if the child doesn't exhibit some of the criteria for that, then we move on with the new issues like behavioral issues and adjusting to a new home. But after Millie's incident at school, where she had an inappropriate conversation with a 7-year-old about the death of her sister, that triggered, it triggered thoughts for her, obviously. But it also brought to light maybe the need that if Millie's talking to a 7-year-old at school, that it might be more appropriate to speak to her school counselor, her adoptive mother, or her current therapist. So we did talk to Millie, and I did tell her that the next session we would try to talk about the past.
Did she have an easy or a hard time remembering the past?
Well, she was, it just depends on which aspect of the past. I mean, she gave me some pretty clear memories, and then she shut down.
On June 7th, 2019, did you write a note about that?
Yes.
And what did you write?
I said Millie mentioned several times during the game that she had a hard time remembering the past, and that she was distancing herself from the past. To be complete on that, Millie also talked about her biological family, but seemed to be distancing herself from the past.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any thoughts?
Good morning. So, just to be clear, was your diagnosis of Millie a compulsive liar?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Was the intention of your sessions to assist Millie with her transitions?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the lies that were told. Were they about brushing her teeth?
I believe maybe brushing her teeth, yes.
And did she tell you that one of the reasons that she lied was because she admitted in the past she was afraid of getting in trouble and getting punished or physically abused?
Can you point to a note
Sure.
on that? Because I do recall some of that.
That
but-
was December 19 of 2018.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Millie seemed to realize that it would have been better to tell the truth and that she would not have gotten in trouble. Millie admitted that in her past she was afraid of getting in trouble and getting punished or physically abused. Millie seemed to comprehend the concept of trust and forgiveness.
And did Millie have some issues with trust?
Yes.
And was that because of the amount of time she had been moved around?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was one of the issues that Amanda was addressing with Millie was the having trust between the two of them.
Yes.
Okay. And is that something common you see with children in adoptive situations?
It's true with children in foster or adoptive situations. Yes.
You indicated on direct that there was 2 occasions where Millie got in trouble at school. So that was 2 out of all the years she'd been in school.
2 that I'm aware of from
your-
the year that I worked with
And
her.
what were those 2 occasions?
I believe one time Millie touched another student's property, and
What property?
maybe a backpack or something. She got in trouble. Millie goes to a private school, so I think the rules are pretty strict there. So she got in trouble for that, and
On the first one, did that cause you any concern?
no,
Did that make you diagnose Millie as a compulsive liar?
absolutely not.
Is that pretty normal for a
That's
sister?
definitely normal.
Okay, and let's go on to the second one.
Okay.
You said there was 2 lies. What was the second one?
At school?
Yes, that's
I think the other time that she got in trouble, and again, strict rules, she was told to do something, maybe move to a certain area or to finish an assignment before she was able to do something. And she stated that she had not heard the instructions. And the teacher was fairly and again, this is hearsay somewhat, but according to the adoptive mother, the teacher was fairly certain that Millie had heard the instruction. So it was kind of selective hearing.
So did that mean Millie was a compulsive liar?
No,
Okay. Is that pretty common for children her age,
it's pretty common for a first grader.
for a first grader? So nothing out of the ordinary?
No.
Okay. And on December 5th of 2018, you indicated that Amanda had some concerns about memories Millie described, and that Amanda wasn't sure were true. That doesn't mean they were lies, she just didn't know.
Right. And again, some children that come from instability and neglect, they love their parents unconditionally, or anyone that's cared for them. So they sometimes embellish stories to remember it positively.
So she was trying to make, Millie was trying to make people look better.
Millie's very positive.
Okay. So she wasn't trying to say negative things about her previous caregivers.
No.
And you indicated there was an incident at school when they were discussing death, and that brought up some concerns that Millie was thinking about her sister.
And
What was that trigger?
so the trigger, I believe, if I remember correctly, one of her classmates had a grandmother that had passed away, and maybe they talked about it in the service, maybe prayers. That typically happens in a Christian school. So Millie went out on the playground, and she was standing next to her classmate, and Millie wanted to be relevant. So Millie started talking about her sister's death. And as she talked about it, she described things, and some of the things could have been known to her age, but one thing in particular was something that we kind of felt that maybe Millie had heard over the years.
And what was that one thing?
That was something that maybe you would read on an autopsy about an organ and the condition of the organ when her sister passed away.
So Millie told this other 7-year-old that Layla's organs were split in two?
Yes, that's what she said.
And you feel that was maybe some information Millie got from somewhere else rather than her personally seeing the organs split in two?
Yes.
And were you aware that that was actually, the evidence has been that Layla's organs were split in two?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't about lying, it was about where she was getting that information.
Right. And Miss Harrell and I discussed that because she knew that there was no way Millie knew that.
And that might not, that information might not be something you wanted a 7-year-old to actually know about what happened to her sister.
And definitely not something that you want to speak to with a 7-year-old classmate that doesn't understand that. That's disturbing.
So that was the kind of the context of that
Yes,
issue.
yes.
On January 21st, 2019, Defense Counsel indicated that you wrote, Millie has a tendency to make up her own version of past experiences, and they asked you if it was concerning, and you said yes and no. Could you elaborate on that?
And
That was January 21st of 2019.
okay. So, in a positive way, it could be a defense mechanism to remember her biological family in a positive way. And no, because lying is not appropriate. So, but again, you know, it's a coping mechanism for her. So,
And this had to do with her biological family?
I believe so. I believe so.
And when Millie did eventually, well, let me ask you this. Millie wasn't jumping to tell you about what happened to her in the Rosenbaum's home. Like, she didn't just come out and blurt things.
No,
She was pretty reluctant to even discuss it.
she didn't want to
She didn't
discuss
want
it.
to. Okay. And when she did discuss it, she did describe being spanked.
Yes,
And she did describe having her arm twisted.
she did.
And she also stated that she and Laila used to get really get in trouble if they fell asleep in the car.
Yes, I do recall that.
And when Millie began recalling the day Laila died, she became sullen and her eyes watery.
She did.
And you also indicated that Millie's tendency to avoid talking about her past history. She has a tendency to avoid talking about her past history of neglect and instability.
Yes.
Okay. So it's difficult for her to talk about. And would you expect a child who experienced this trauma and seeing her sister die at the age of 4, and then at the age of 7 would remember everything that occurred?
No.
Okay. And once Millie learned that she was going to testify, how did she start acting?
She started talking about dreams. And one thing that was interesting to me, she had about 2 months before that, she had been really proud to show me herself riding her bike up and down the driveway and through her yard and the neighbor's yard. And one particular day, again, as we were getting closer to the trial, and we weren't really talking about the trial, we were talking about deep breathing and relaxing and telling the truth. She mentioned that she was scared to ride her bike on her driveway, and I was really surprised at that. And I said, Millie, you were just doing this a couple months ago. Why are you scared? And she said, because there are bad and good people in this world, and I can't tell the difference.
Thank you. No further questions.
Redirect.
Am I excused?
Any objections?